Always.
Welcome to another Sunday Superversive live stream. I am your host, Benjamin Wheeler, and I'm here with Anthony Marquetta and Ken Dickinson, the three horsemen of the Pinkerton's ghosts.
Good evening.
Looking for horsemen. If you think you can apply to this job, please send your resume and cover letter to pinkertonsghosts@gmail.com. Thank you so much. Anyway, which one of you will I replace? Or will I have four to make the metaphor complete?
I think you need the fourth.
Sure. All right. Anyway, how are you guys doing today?
Not dead yet.
Ooh.
Yes. Every day it's true until it's not.
And then you'll be with
I'm
our
okay
Father.
with that.
That's right.
Not dead yet.
Not dead yet.
I give you permission to steal it.
Sure. All right. You can. I'll steal it. I'm a shameless author.
That's right.
Woo! Right now, I am playing Hades, while I hope the other co-conspirators may find something to talk about, or someone in the chat show up. I have spread the word around. We'll give them a few moments.
I should
I
put
gotta
that on my
admit,
Facebook page.
Hades is so good, though. It
Really
shouldn't
is.
be as good as it is, but it's so good.
How far have you
I
gotten, Ben?
wish it wasn't as good as it was.
I only play it on stream, so I haven't gotten very far. I can't even remember what the symbols mean. I think I'm gonna try this one. Ooh. So anyway, we are past 50 episodes. The big 50. The over a year's worth of episodes. Fantastic. Like, most places don't get this far, and yet we've definitely hit it in all the best ways. And that's important. That's important to everyone here, including me, especially me, but, everyone here.
And did you know we're known for our humility?
We are.
We're known?
What was that?
I said we're known?
Yeah, right. We're world famous.
Yay! That and $2.50 will buy you a cup of coffee.
When the anime's made, that's when you know.
Not even a good cup.
The anime? I don't know. Do we really want to be in that degeneracy?
I mean,
yes.
Yes.
Oh.
You know what I do for a living?
I want Studio Trigger to make the Pinkerton's Ghosts anime. They already did. They already did Noir Light in Brand New Animal.
That's how you know they're good for it.
Yeah, but the visuals, the aesthetics won't be there.
The aesthetics will be there. They were able to do noir, sort of Noir Light in Brand New Animal. They know they can handle it.
Brand New Animal was not noir.
Brand New Animal had a noir aesthetic at times, especially when they were focusing on Shiro.
Sure. I don't know. I don't think it'll fit the brand. The brand. Yes, brand.
I think Madhouse could do it. Madhouse did do No Guns Life, and No Guns Life looked great. And that had a similar-ish visual style.
That was. I could see them doing it. It's hard to think about what sort of anime we'd like to see anime studio do this. But, someday someone will answer that question for us. And by that I mean whoever makes
You're like, it's hard, and I'm like, I could think of two off the top of my head.
It's hard.
Like, it's not that hard.
I'm not really picky. I just want someone to do it.
It's not that hard.
I'll take anybody.
So, Ben, what are your thoughts on Season 2 of Pinkerton's Ghosts so far?
An excellent question.
Season 2 is actually going pretty great. I'm pretty happy with everything developed so far, and I'm pretty happy with how things are just, kind of running. it's not really the best time for all of us, but at the same time, we're still making our deadlines.
That's all that matters.
Yes, we're still making our deadlines. Uh, I'm still developing gray hairs, but we're meeting those deadlines. Yep. And then we'll, it's like, how do I want to put it? It's doing it right. Like, that's the thing. It's hard to really talk about some of the stuff without being like, yeah, it's still in motion. And it's never not going to be in motion. It's going to be in motion until the bitter end. And, well, the sweet end, too. And I'm just going to keep working at it, plugging at it. We have some good news. I've been contacted by Unauthorized. So I should be able to start updating more there as well. And a few other things besides. It's really going to turn out for the best in a lot of ways.
Fantastic.
Then I'll be able to give them special stuff and make more special stuff for our subscribers, our lovely, lovely subscribers who we do this for. Yes. Lovely.
I've also been in contact with several older actors whom I'm hoping at some point to become readers for us.
Ooh.
Yes.
I do actually like writing guest
Fantastic.
episodes. It lets me switch up the voice in fun ways.
Exactly.
Like most people, that's something important to talk about. Like the voice that I do when I do write a lot of these things is important. Because then it gives it unique and ideas that I might not be able to do with a Jack Morrow story, or compared to a Jim Donavan story, or a Sean Russo story, or an Old Tom story. Blah blah blah. But David can write his own, so it's like, yeah, don't have to worry about those.
Exactly. That's what's great about David is he's actually good. So, don't need to worry about him in any situation.
Absolutely not. Let's see. Do I want? Yeah. So moving through it, like we've got Chris coming up in a couple weeks. Anthony's should be done by Monday, so I can upload that to the Subscribe Star. Then we have after it maybe Lou or maybe just some of us stuff, and then I'll work with David and see if he can get masks up for the next guest, because that is a pretty spooky one, and also with all the elite nonsense going on, it might be worth our time to do it. Time to put it up. You gotta play where the spirit of the nation is going. Gotta hit that cultural zeitgeist.
Yay, zeitgeist. German words for the win.
Ugh. Actually, it was funny. I saw on the news for those of us who have refused to how do I want
bend to social pressure?
Bend to social pressure. Austrians are calling for camps, which is like classic. Wow, way to stay on brand, guys.
I mean, if it ain't broke.
Right, exactly. You we only have one tune, but you play it well. Good
That's
job.
Right.
For stuff like that, it's very much, we have to learn how to do it right. If we miss out on golden opportunities like this, man, what sort of what sort of artists would we be?
Well, I think you said it yourself in that not Freudian slip.
What'd you say about my mother?
Sometimes a cigar is just a cigar.
Yep, that is true. It's mostly a cigar. In fact, I would say that it is. Cigars are mostly just cigars.
I would agree. But I also don't really like cigars. Well, it's not true. I don't like cigarettes. Cigars, however, are fine.
Cigars are nice. I enjoy it. I actually tried to buy one by myself a long time ago. Not really a long time ago, but I'm just saying, in the distant past. And it had Columbus on it, and no, didn't happen. It was terrible, disgusting. Didn't burn,
tragic.
Which is the whole point. Well, that's what you get. That's what you get for trusting Christopher Columbus.
Odd, I didn't realize it was that kind of episode.
No, it wasn't that kind of episode. I'm just playing around. I am pretending there's a continuity between each live stream, which is important for the deep lore people that follow our live stream.
We have D4 people.
Hello, Afro in RX. Well, Will, another Austrian. Well, I'm sure somebody's feeling it. I'm sure some Austrian is just waiting. Can't keep your eyes off the Austrians for a minute. So how do you guys think it's going? Let's start with Ken. How do you think season 2 is going? What do you like? What do you don't like? What do you really got in store for us?
Oh goodness, what do I like and not like about season 2? I like that we've kind of felt season 1 was kind of establishing who our characters are, and now it feels like all three of us are really comfortable not just with who we are, but also who the other people are. So when I have to write a little blurb about how Jack or Sean would react to something Jim's doing, I feel like I kind of have an idea. At the very least, I feel like I can send you or Anthony a quick 2-second text and have you write me back an easy response saying, "Oh no, this is what would happen. Do that or whatever." I like that. I like that we're starting to understand our characters better. Of course, my character has always just been a placeholder for myself because I'm a narcissist. But so mine was always easiest to write.
Your development as an author has been inspiring.
Oh, thank you. Like they say, right?
I hear a tinge of sarcasm in that comment somehow.
What? No.
Less sarcasm than you think.
I will say, though, that I haven't been actually scared by any of our episodes yet. I feel like we're kind of missing... We've kind of gotten sidetracked into adventure and less horror overall.
I could see that.
Counter argument. My episodes have never been scary, so I have sidetracked.
Yes. That's kind of why I tried to overcompensate a little bit with the last one, but I still think I missed the mark a little bit.
I don't know what to tell you. I don't know what to tell you people about my episodes. It's just like, I don't know. We've had various theories. The most common seems to be that I am the least mentally disturbed of the three of us.
True.
Which, not to put too fine a point on it, might actually be true.
Yeah,
I mean, could be. Is there some merit to the possibility?
I try not to be, but so it's like this. Like, that actually gets an interesting point, because it's like, when it comes to things like writing out your psycho issues, I try to avoid that. I deliberately avoid that. And so
Sure.
I know it doesn't sound like that sometimes, but, I am trying not to be like, this is where I work out my issues. Because I know that, quite frankly, it gets real tiresome for a lot of things. It's like, why did XYZ do that? I was listening to John C. Wright and Jason's live stream yesterday, which is pretty good stuff. And it's like, talking about Robert Heinlein and the Atlas Shrugged woman and so on and so forth. And it's like, Ayn Rand, thank you. And it's like, really, what were they producing? No, they weren't producing fiction. They were producing preaching tracks.
Rand?
Yeah, that's true. Especially
rants.
towards the end of Heinlein's character, or Heinlein's career.
Yep. Mostly about sexual stuff and,
Yes.
not paying your taxes.
Yes.
Which
True.
is the bottommost rung on the Laszlo hierarchy of needs. But it's like, like Jack Morrow, sure, you could probably say, well, this is like this in your life, this is like that in your life, and it comes out. It's gonna come out. Like, I was shaped by forces beyond my control. But when I notice it, I more or less always take it out, unless it's, absolutely necessary for the story, and it's like, gross. I feel gross having to work with this now. But, yeah, that's what you got to do. How about for the rest of you guys?
I think it's very obvious that I use my my writing as a way to deal with my life and issues. The worse life gets, the worse Jim's mysteries wind up being. The more pain he suffers.
Amazing. I'm
Yes.
gonna come over to California and kick your ass every now and then, just to make sure that stories are extra preachy, punky, or whatever you want to call it. How about you,
Yes.
Anthony?
Painful.
Well, this is something that we've talked about a few times. It's an open secret that I write Sean with my voice. So, Ken has mentioned, like, Sean sounds like you. And I'm like, well, yeah, that was intentional. For one thing, it makes it easier to write, and I need to write one story every 3 weeks starring Sean. So ease is something that I do need to kind of keep in mind, at least in the background. So, yes, Sean talks like me. And I don't know. There are certain things about Sean that are similar to me, and certain things that are not. I have written characters that I consider to be, I don't know if Avatar is exactly the right word, but like loosely inspired by myself. Sean is not one of those characters. He was not based on me in any way, shape, or form when I created him. With that said, there are always personal things that, come up in a character, especially one that you're this close to in terms of Sean. And there are certainly things in Sean's backstory that I can empathize with, not in the exact same way, obviously, since my backstory and Sean's backstory are completely different.
What? No.
Unlike Ben and Jack, who have basically identical pasts.
Oh,
But
true. Ben has burned down an orphanage to thwart monsters and whatnot.
It was a children's hospital. Thank you.
Same thing. Either way, there's kids involved.
Not
Right.
really.
Ben has murdered several children. What?
Not on camera.
That's still in court. It hasn't been proven. What? Anyway. Point being, when I write Sean, I don't think of it as working out psychological issues or anything. Sean is both a better and worse person than me in a variety of ways. However, with that said, once again, this is all stuff that long-term listeners on our channel will have heard already because it's kind of an open secret, but I specifically wrote Sean as a contrast kind of to Jack and Jim, who were both written as sort of like, to fit, they were writing noir detectives, right? So you want to write characters that fit into the noir detective role in various ways.
That's right. Hard-bitten, cynical, all that.
And I wrote Sean sort of as an intentional contrast to that, or at least I conceived of him as like, he's not the sort of person who would typically be inserted into this role to be doing this job. So I had to come up with a backstory of like how he ended up here and, how he got into this position. And don't get me wrong, there are things about Sean's backstory and past that fit into the noir detective trope formula, like the alcoholism.
He's an alcoholic.
Yeah, like the alcoholism. But with a lot of what I did with Sean was specifically like most noir detectives aren't like this. The fact that Sean is, somebody who was who used to be popular and even charismatic and who had money and had success. And sure, the bottom fell out from underneath him, and then he had to like claw his way back up to the top. But that's all in the backstory. The person who we get now is not somebody who like grew up as wanting to be a detective, and he didn't have any sort of background in like police work or military or anything like that.
It just fits my belief that we're just writing a D&D campaign where you're the bard, Ben is the barbarian, and I'm the wizard/sorcerer. Actually, no, probably more warlock.
Yeah, I could see that.
Yeah.
I mean, I've always considered this just a loosely serial numbers filed off JoJo's fanfic, but hey.
Since I hate JoJo, I definitely didn't write my character to be a character in that.
That's why Ben's the editor.
This is true. That's a good point.
Yep. Also, hey, Cordell. Glad to see you here.
Cordell!
Welcome. But yeah, as far as this season goes, this season has been interesting. It was part of it, like the first 2 episodes, the Revolutionary War episodes, were something that I came up with all the way back in last season. Then when I realized I would need to make it at least 2 weeks, I said, you know what? This is a big enough deal that I think it could work as a season opener, so that's why it was moved to this season. It went fairly well. I did have issues coming up with a climax to what was it? Revolutionary War, Crossroads of the Revolution Part 2, which I think was renamed to Sean Saves America.
Yes, it
because
was. I'm so
Ken
glad
thought
about
it was
that.
funny. And admittedly, it is. So, no complaints. We had a little bit of trouble coming up with the climax of it, but overall, I think it was a successful experiment, in terms of something different. However, my favorite episode this season, which also happens of mine, I should clarify, so far, and I should also clarify, happened to be the 50th episode of the show overall, was the Molly Maguires. The Molly Maguires has the benefit of being one of not that many stories that came out on paper very close to how I imagined it in my head. And that is always rare. And sadly, much like a lot of Ben's stories from last year, which we all kind of agreed were the best ones, it has also been sadly underwatched.
Yes,
I agree. Is a shame. Because I think they've had worse stories that got more views than Molly Maguire's.
It's the SEO something.
Yeah, who knows?
Like it's. I wish I could say it's something different, but no, it's literally the thing just doesn't bless you.
Well, I'm going to be talking to a social media advisor for my Little Mermaid parody. So if I get the opportunity, I will ask her some questions about Pinkerton's ghost as well. See if we can get us some actual new viewers.
We're getting some, but it's
Molly Maguire's was fun to write. It was right up my alley. It was history and dialogue heavy, but like I said, the most important thing about it to me was that I had an image of how the story would go in my head, and the story on paper comes very close to how it appears in my head.
And no, Anthony, I think the best part of that story, of course, has got to be Pitt and Saint Devay.
Which, admittedly, was a Ben invention. However, when I came up with the story, so I came up with the story after visiting, what's the name? Crap, I forgot the name of the town. I'm blanking on it. Jim Thorpe. That was it. So I got the idea for the story. So here's what's fun about Molly Maguire's to me, that nobody else will find fun, but I find fun. It is a very historically accurate story in a lot of ways. There is one difference. The main difference is that the Carbon County Courthouse in Jim Thorpe, Pennsylvania, where the story takes place, is real. The Molly Maguires were executed there. The years that I give in the story are all accurate. The background of the various Molly Maguires are mentioned by Pitt and Saint Devay and Blackjack Kehoe, who is a very real person, by the way. So all of those things were accurate. However, you could visit the Carbon County Courthouse right now. It is a museum. It's quite interesting. If you're ever in the area, it'll take you probably about, an hour total to get through the whole thing. It's not that big. It is not haunted. There is a ghostly handprint.
Ooh.
That is real. You could see it. You're not allowed to take pictures of it, though.
What? That's
apparently
nonsense.
There was an issue with people when they were taking pictures. They were getting right up close to it, and they were rubbing it, and it made it get blurry. You could still see it. It didn't get wiped away, which,
Sure.
Importantly, because that's, part of the
lore.
Yeah, the lore, that it doesn't get wiped away. So it's still there, but it's a very weird story, that handprint. It was one thing, it was actually not in the first draft of the Molly Maguire story that I wrote, but I mentioned it to Ben, and I said, it's a shame, I couldn't really think of a spot to stick it in, but it's a cool story and it's real. So Ben stuck it in on the editing, which I'm glad about, because I'm glad that it's there. Also, the other thing that I really like about Molly Maguire, so like I said, that's the one big difference. Carbon County Courthouse is a museum nowadays. It is, as far as I know, not haunted. at the very least not haunted in any obvious way outside of the handprint. It's an interesting visit. I just changed the timeline slightly so that now they're opening the museum for the first time, and there's poltergeists haunting it, so that I could make my little story surrounding it. The
Look,
other thing
it's
that
revolutionary America. I'm sure you could make a good argument for there being ghosts around.
Well, there were people executed there, and they were innocent people, probably.
I like that little caveat.
Well, the official story nowadays, much like most white people in America today, they're very apologetic about what happened to the Molly Maguires. So if you actually visit there, like, the unofficial official position is that the trials were a hatchet job and the Molly Maguires were railroaded. And if you actually look into the events, like, it is interesting. There really was a Pinkerton who went undercover in the Molly Maguires by the name of Jim. I want to say Jim McPherson, James McPherson. That was it, James McPherson. He really did go undercover in the Molly Maguires. He really was the main reason that several of them were executed, and there really was an event that occurred that led to him wanting to quit because they were having there was vigilante warfare going on between, like, the railroad owners and the mine owners and the Molly Maguires. And a wife and one of the wives of the Molly Maguires was murdered in the vigilante warfare. Now, James McPherson had no love for the Molly Maguires. He recommended vigilante action be taken against the Molly Maguires. Like, that was his official recommendation as an undercover detective. You need to do something about these guys. I recommend violence. But when a wife was killed, he said, whoa, I did not say anything about, like, attacking the families. He was very against this. His main reasons were, number one, he thought that this would lead to the Molly Maguires escalating in kind and civilians being targeted. And number two, it was, just this, the wives had nothing to do with it. This was a matter, the issue was the husbands, right? And so he actually wanted to leave. He wanted to back out. And Alan Pinkerton himself had to, like, write him a letter and personally assure him that the vigilantes who killed the wife were not sent in by the Pinkertons. That was the only way he would say. He needed to get, like, personally reassured by Alan Pinkerton that they had nothing to do with it. Which I thought was a fascinating story. So I had Kitten St. Eve bring that up to defend James McPherson's character in the trial.
Yep.
But then I also have, after Kitten St. Eve makes his case condemning the Molly Maguires, afterward he very casually remarks to Sean that the trial was probably a hatchet job. And when Sean goes, wait a minute, but you just spent this whole time attacking them. And he just kind of throws his hand up and goes, "Oh yeah, don't worry about that. I'll say whatever."
So if you haven't watched the episode yet, you now don't have to.
Nonsense. You'll want to hear Kitten St. Eve's wonderful dialogue.
It is fantastic.
It is hilarious. It's probably Anthony's best voice thus far.
Well, I've finally bitten the bullet after much bullying to try and do accents, which I refused to do before this.
I don't need you to do accents, but you should do voices.
So I am trying to do voices and accents. I think that Kitten St. Eve's accent came out mostly fine. I mean, by certain definitions, fine. I think that Blackjack Kehoe's in retrospect vacillates wildly. It's supposed to be an Irish accent, but then it turns into a pirate accent at one point.
And then it just stays forever.
Yeah. And I'm just like, you know what, whatever.
I allowed it.
I'm like, that's as good as I'm going to get it.
And that's why I didn't complain when I was editing.
But Molly Maguires is a fun story. I am very excited to be working on the next story in the series, Doppelgangers, because Doppelgangers is going to be very lore critical.
Ooh.
Uh, I don't want to get, since it's not out yet, I don't want to discuss the part of this one too much, but what happens in this story isn't going to affect things immediately, but it's going to have huge repercussions on the world of Pinkerton's ghosts down the road,
Ooh.
potentially leading multiple seasons down the line.
Ooh.
Doppelgangers is an idea that I came up with during the season 2 pitch meeting, I believe. The idea has to do with multiverses and alternate universes and portals opening up and things like that.
It's good. If it's good enough for Marvel, it's good enough for us.
We'll have consequences in our stories.
That's true.
Yeah.
Anyway.
I'm actually very, very interesting to see what you guys do with the multiverse when you get to it. Not that I expect either of you to get to it soon, because you have your own things planned, but it opens up the door.
Jim is going to abuse the multiverse. 100%.
He will.
Yep. It's just too obvious. Oh, look, it's something I can exploit for my own magical purposes.
We're also going to be bringing back some Sean villains. We have Medical Story coming out in between. That is not the final title. I did not come up with a title for the story, but it is recorded. I am doing some minor edits before I hand it in to Ken. Medical Story, I think, came out pretty well, and it reintroduces Morgana, so I'm excited for what people do with that. I don't know. Mostly, though, what I'm excited about with this season is something that I've said all along from the beginning, which is I'm really excited for where this season is heading. How
absolutely.
it will end.
Oh, it's going to be great.
It will be.
The horror. The horror.
Jack goes to Vietnam and they have to drag him back. Where he's played by... I can't remember the actor who played him.
Can't either.
Orson
Godfather.
Welles.
No, it's not.
Marlon Brando.
No. Marlon Brando, there it is.
Yes.
Man, that's terrible. Oof.
It's terrible.
And I'm an actor. I should know these guys. Oh, well.
Anyway.
So what do you think about the series?
It will end in fire.
Oh, it definitely will end with fire.
It'll end. That's more accurate than you think.
Yes. Yeah, so I think season 2 is going pretty well so far, from my editor perspective and also from a personal perspective. Not because I'm really doing much with Jack. I think in the next episode, he's going down with Sean. I think it's Sean. To basically track down that statue that turned a black hole inside out on him, and left him more or less comatose and blind for a month.
Oh yeah,
that voodoo statue from the last episodes of last season.
Right.
And he's gonna try and put paid for it. Then in a couple episodes after that, he is gonna team up with Jim to take a look at a Rocky Mountain Grand Mason facility, which is going to be interesting. It's going to have a bit more adventure and horror in that one, because it's going to be like, okay, Jack, step here. He falls through the thing and has to catch himself. You want to just, and it's going to be like, oh, okay, well, there's another hole, leading into the abyss of space.
Yes.
I think it'll be interesting. There'll be some. I'll be putting a lot of work into it. But for Big Easy Rumble, it's going to be definitely more like voodoo horror, which I think is a very fertile ground. Honestly.
Oh, by the way, just as a side note, if you don't mind me interrupting you here, because Halloween is coming up, here in Hollywood, everyone goes out all to the nines when it comes to decorating their places. Like, everyone says, "Oh no, we decorate for Halloween." No, we spend tens of thousands of dollars on our stuff. There is one person in a couple, maybe a block away from me, who has absolutely decked their entire front yard out in the most horrifying display of voodoo idols and atrocities I think I've ever seen. For instance, Anthony, you I know have read Pale Realms of Shade. Do you remember the alligator and the monk, the friar with the teeth of iron in that story?
No.
Oh yeah, basically the devil
No,
in
you're
that
not.
series. Yeah, yeah.
Oh,
Oh, it's
okay.
creepy as all get out. But just imagine something that you look at and say, "Oh, yeah, there's probably a demon in there, or that represents this," and it's absolutely the case.
That's fantastic.
Huh.
I need
Oh, it's
pictures.
horrifying every time I walk past it. Okay, well, I'll try and get some. Well, not tonight because I got D&D after the meeting, but maybe tomorrow.
Sweet. No, that
Yay.
is absolutely terrifying.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
This is where I live. Oh well, Satan's claimed Los Angeles a long time ago. It's the city of fallen angels.
Yes.
Yes. Which is why we're gonna start hunting vampires in there soon, I'm sure.
I mean, I've already got a vampire episode in Los Angeles, but
Yeah, we need more. We could always use more.
okay, fair.
You know, you just kind of wanna get it over with. You know, and by that I mean, there's certainly no, you know, political or whatever you want to say things with this. You know, it's entirely true to life. All
I'm
we're
apolitical.
doing, absolutely apolitical. Uh, yeah.
That's right. To my handlers that still hire me, I'm totally apolitical.
Oh, absolutely. Ooh.
Just to the Disney Channel that keeps sending me checks every month.
Disney Channel?
Yeah, I was in a show for them a while back.
Oh, nice.
Oddly enough, I played a ghost.
That's why I certainly hire the best.
You certainly did. And of course, it was not really a ghost. It was more like a guy that was scamming, pretending to be a ghost.
Right, but, you know.
So it's even more true to life.
They're getting too meta. That's what's happening.
Yes, they are. That's true.
That's actually one of my complaints about the SCP Foundation. Most of the highest rated articles are just kind of meta. And it's like, no, I don't care.
Meta's overrated.
Yep.
It was kind of clever when it was started in the early 2000s.
Sincerity is where I'm not a fan of overly meta. I'm a fan of it. I mean, I get the idea in a sense. I'm trying to think of how to put it exactly. Like, meta makes sense to a point because, you know, if you're doing I'm trying to think of how to put it. Like, if you're doing a well-trodden genre, a lot of convention, people are going to want to see, you know, how you're not going to do the exact same thing over again. How you're going to be different from everybody else.
Right.
Yep.
So I get that. You know, to a point, you need to be meta in the sense that, like, you know, oh, we're doing, I don't know, vampires again. So how are your vampires different? Right? Like, and people will want to see something different in a sense.
But they also want to see a lot of the same things the same.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's a balance that you need to take. But I do get, like, how people fall into that trap, I guess. I mean, I get how I call it a trap, though. A lot of these people are enemies, and they're being and they're doing this intentionally. It's not a trap, like, you know, they're trying to subvert the genre. So, however, I'm sure that with at least some of them, it exists in a state of, like, you know, oh, I was trying to give somebody something different, and then it turned into, you know, a meta commentary on it. For example, like, one of the best meta commentaries, you know, what I call, and what TV Tropes probably has a different term for, the decon recons. Deconstruction, reconstruction, where you deconstruct a genre or a story or a type of story, and then you reconstruct it. And if you do something, the best examples of this I can think of, Galaxy Quest is an example, The Princess Bride is an example. What was it? I had another one. The Incredibles, that was it. The Incredibles is an example of this. and Daredevil Born Again is an example of it.
Yes, but in
All
each
four of
case, they're all totally sincere, even if they are meta. Most meta things these days
But-
are not sincere at all.
They are and they're not. So The Incredibles starts off looking like it's kind of tongue-in-cheek,
Right.
but the genius of The Incredibles, this is why I call them like they're decon recons. You deconstruct the storyline so that you could reconstruct it, whereas a story like Watchmen is just a deconstruction.
Right.
And The Incredibles is, in this case, a decon recon of of both superheroes and in another sense of families.
Right.
It asks you not only what is the value of a superhero, it also asks what is the value of a family.
Sure.
And then that's why the end of the story, I've heard people criticize, like, that the wonderfully choreographed giant robot battle at the end of it almost feels like it doesn't belong in the story because it's such a personal, tight-knit story. But I actually disagree, because it is a reconstruction of two different types of stories, of the family aspect of it, which is concluded when Syndrome shows up, their home is destroyed, Violet protects them, and then their response to the destruction of all of their earthly possessions is laughter, because they've realized that none of that is actually important. And, of course, the reconstruction of the superhero part of the story is that they have a super awesome epic robot battle, and it is entirely unironic, and it is completely badass.
By the way,
there isn't
fun
any
fact.
irony in the scene.
Fun
Go ahead.
little behind the scenes fact. Director of the Incredibles, Brad Bird, came from my little hometown in Corvallis, and every so often in his movies you will see little nods to my hometown. For instance, the high school that Violet went to was called Crescent Valley, and I want to say that their mascot was the Spartans, which was the mascot, or Trojans, which was the mascot for one of the high schools in my hometown.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah.
Very,
He
very
did the same
cool.
thing with Iron Giant. He obviously couldn't work anything at Corvallis into Mission Impossible because, I mean, come on, of course he wouldn't.
So, Decon Recon is interesting to talk about, I think, because there are various levels of, like, how seriously you're supposed to take the story. Like, for example, I consider Galaxy Quest a Decon Recon as well. But Galaxy Quest is a lot sillier, I think, than The Incredibles is. With that said, I think in the end, you're still supposed to take the story seriously enough.
Right.
Like, and for that matter, I would even consider some level, like, I don't know if you've watched them, but I've mentioned them before, the Harry Potter musicals.
The what?
To be decon, the Harry Potter musicals.
You might have mentioned it, but I just forgot about them.
That's fine. I mean, they're not that important, but
It's Harry Potter, so I don't care about it.
they're hysterical, though, and they're also the best thing to come out of Harry Potter.
Fair.
A group called Star Kid, which Darren Criss was a part of them. He was one of the founders, I believe.
Who's he?
Darren Criss ended up becoming a fairly big star. He was on Glee or something. I don't know. Anyway, he got his start on Star Kid. He ended up becoming a star on Broadway and on TV in some various aspects,
You musical theater kids.
Yeah, they create a musical called a Harry Potter musical. And a Harry Potter musical is the best thing to come out of the entire Harry Potter franchise because it is hysterical. And it is a parody, obviously, of Harry Potter, and they made a Harry Potter sequel and a Harry Potter senior year, eventually. All of which are incredibly funny, but I would actually consider all three of these stories decon recons, even though they're definitely more on the parody end than the serious end. Just like Galaxy Quest leans that way. Even though, Galaxy Quest, though, like, I think the tell with these sorts of stories is that a lot of the best moments are supposed to be taken seriously, like the whole Grabthar's hammer bit with Alan Rickman's character in Galaxy Quest. It starts off as a joke in one of the greatest line readings in the history of cinema, when he has to give the Grabthar's hammer line at the car dealership.
Yes, that is epic.
Which might
really only Alan Rickman could deliver that character as perfectly as he needed to. With that level of disdain and
But then
self-hatred.
later in the movie, it's transformed into that you're supposed to take seriously.
Oh, 100%.
Similarly in The Princess Bride, The Bride is absolutely a comedy, and it's absolutely meant to be a comedy, but what is the scene that everybody remembers? The Inigo Montoya scene.
You kill my father. Prepare
And you
to
know what?
die.
The scene where Inigo Montoya kills the six-fingered man is not comedic at all.
I laughed.
I mean,
Bad, Ken,
I could
bad.
see somebody laughing. Well, I'm trying to say, like, I could see somebody laughing at how top it is, but you know what? It's an awesome moment. Like, you're
100%.
invested. You're, in theory at least, and I think this is what they intended. They want you to be invested in the story at that part.
Yeah.
Like, you're supposed to think that that is an awesome moment because you want Inigo Montoya to kill the six-fingered man. You want him to get his revenge.
Absolutely. And just because I say I laugh,
out.
I'm obviously not laughing sarcastically or cynically. I'm laughing, well, because part of it is really funny. Watching the six-fingered man be made to beg and seeing that he really was a coward all along. It's great. It's loads of fun.
Right. But it's all like, I guess what I'm trying to say is it's unironically epic.
Yes,
for all
absolutely.
of the irony and the cynicism of A Princess Bride, when they recognize that there is something that is legitimately awesome about these stories.
Yes.
And that's what makes it good.
Right.
Like, that's what makes it really good. If it didn't have that sincerity at the end of it, it would just be another Deadpool. And, you know, I'm amused by Deadpool. I think it's funny. But there's nothing else to it. It's funny. That's it. That's all I really have to say about it. The jokes are sometimes good. Probably more often than not.
But that's also why nobody really liked the second one, is because the jokes are just the same. Because it's like, oh, superhero, it's got a bad mouth. Wow.
I think Deadpool 2 is a fine movie. You know, it's fine. But also, I thought Deadpool 1 was fine. They're funny.
Sure.
If you like the jokes, you like the movie. But there's nothing else to it.
I like Deadpool better when it was Mystery Men, because I thought that was the most entertaining deconstruction of the.
This just reminds me of my brother, who has been like trying to get me to watch Mystery Men, and I've just been like, dude, I just have no interest in it. Stop making me try to watch it.
It's very enjoyable, Anthony. It's very enjoyable.
Fine. It'll excite my brother. He'll be like, yes, finally. What made you want to watch it? And I'll just be like, shut up.
It is on Netflix at the moment. I watched it again last night, or a couple nights ago. And for those of you listening that enjoyed the series, much like I did going up through high school, it remains as good as it was back 20 years ago when it came out. Better, in fact, because you see all the movies that tried to do the same thing. And yeah, I mean, for instance, you got Deadpool that has the deconstruction of the hero, blah, blah, blah. And they might have done some aspects a little better. But you can look at all that Marvel and stuff have done and still say, oh, this little independent movie about a little known comic book or whatever it was is still really solid, with some fantastic performances by the guy that played the Barbossa in Pirates of the Caribbean. I can never remember. Jeffrey Rush, one of the best British actors, best underrated British actors out there. Ben Stiller was actually enjoyable for a change.
Oh yeah,
I know.
Right. I now remember this movie. It's about the guy who's invisible, but only when he's naked. It's fantastic.
That's Kel. Kel from Kenan and Kel fame.
Yes.
Wasn't it that he's only invisible if you're not looking at him? Nobody knows.
That is correct.
He has a power. If he's like, so nobody knows if he actually has that as a power or not.
Exactly.
Which is, by the way, a hysterical idea.
It very much is. And it leads it up to the very, very end. That Chekhov's gun does not go fired for a very long time.
I appreciate that. Jeffrey Rush, I know from a total of one, obviously, and that is the Pirates movie. I guess movie series.
He did so many brilliant movies, but I don't know why. He just doesn't have much in the way of... He's not prolific.
I guess. I mean, he's fantastic in the Pirates movies.
That was good. You're right.
I think.
What did you say?
There's King's Speech and
Wow.
the pirate movies, and there's another one I enjoyed, but I cannot remember the name of
Shakespeare
it.
in Love.
I did not see that.
Oh,
Okay.
did he do that movie? I didn't
He
know that
did.
was him.
I
I
didn't
didn't
watch it. I'm
watch
just
it.
looking at it.
By the
I've
way,
heard of it.
hello, Jacob Birkenfield. Found Pinkerton's Ghost from Unauthorized, and you loved it. Thank you, and keep up the good work. Thank you, sir. Thank you. And
Let's
I'm
see.
hoping we can do some stuff with that soon. But we will see. It is as the Lord wills.
Indeed.
Let's
One
see.
movie that I think he'd never got credit for, but really should have, was called Shine, which is about a pianist who goes crazy because of how complicated the piece was that he was trying to play.
That's fantastic.
I know it's a very weird movie.
Ah.
It's not weird in terms of convention. It's still told in the typical 3-act structure, but it's very weird in the sense of you wouldn't expect this to be a plot. But it's basically an adult version of Your Lie in April, but without the happy ending.
By the way, Casanova Frankenstein is a fantastic name.
It is, and the fact that he's apparently a throwback from the disco era, era and error.
Jeffrey Rush, like I said, I really only know him from the Pirates movie. I remember
Sure.
him. He did star in The Book Thief, which I considered watching as a movie. So The Book Thief is on that list, is on the short list of books, what I call books I'm not supposed to like,
Okay.
because they are of a genre or a type of book or a type of author that that you would generally be surprised to see somebody like me reading, but that I've read and actually enjoy. The Book
Romance.
Thief is one of those books. No, actually, it's not a romance. It's a World War II like coming of age about a girl in Germany, and it's told from the point of view of death.
Oh, so it's Anne Frank.
So no, she's not Jewish, though they are hiding a Jew. Although he's only there for part of the story. I quite like the book. I won't go so far as to recommend it to other people, because I could totally understand the people who hear that synopsis and immediately go, "Oh, I'm tired of that type of story," and that's fair. Like, it's told all the time. It is perfectly fair to be tired of it. However, I quite enjoyed the book when I read it.
Sure.
So I did pay attention when the Book Thief movie came out, but then it didn't get good reviews, and I went whatever and ignored it. I knew Jeffrey Rush was starring in it, though, so that was one of the things that made me go, "Oh, maybe I'll pay attention." But then everybody was like, "Wow, that was boring."
But those people that said,
Seemed
"Wow,
to
that was
be-
boring," were also probably the same people that would have laughed at you for saying you enjoyed the book.
That's true, yes. So maybe, which makes me think that maybe I should try it. But now that you put it like that, but no, I mean, I think the Book Thief, the author Marcus Zusak also wrote a book that I actually will recommend to everybody called The Messenger or I Am the Messenger, depending on the country it's published in. And that is a good book. It's about a young guy, from Britain, I think. At the begin, and he's like a loser. He drives a cab, and he considers it like a dead end job, and he lives on his own with a dog. And he stops a robbery at the beginning of the book at a bank, and he sort of gets mildly famous for this, but then he starts getting messages from an unknown party telling him to basically do these good things, and he starts changing people's lives by following the messages.
Is it God?
And it's sort of framed as a mystery. The reveal at the end is quite stupid, so I'm going to tell you because it's not going to ruin the book, because it was a bad reveal. So if anything, I'm going to save you the disappointment. The reveal is that the person sending the messages was the author.
Oh,
so
that's even more depressing.
That was stupid.
Oh,
yeah,
my goodness.
That was stupid. However, the rest of the book is very good, and I actually do recommend it. It is an entertaining story. It's kind of inspiring. Zuzak has a very unique writing style. He works with very short paragraphs and sentences, and it's very poetic, and I can imagine people getting tired of it very quickly too, but I like it. He wrote another book called like Bridge of Clay relatively recently, but everything I've heard about it makes it sound terrible, so I've avoided it.
That reminds me, and since we were talking about meta earlier, it reminds me of my absolute favorite Will Ferrell movie, which is Stranger Than Fiction.
Probably oh my god, I hated that movie.
What?
I am.
Did you hate that?
Which movie? What?
Stranger Than Fiction.
Oh, I never saw
where
it.
It's a great movie that Will Ferrell finally underacted in, as opposed to overacted.
Wow.
Where it's all about an author who apparently wrote this guy's life, and he was living out what she was writing. And I'm just going to spoil it for you, Ben, because I know you'll probably won't watch it. At the very end, they kill the movie, and they predict it. They predict it perfectly. The woman wrote the guy's ending where she's going to kill him at the end. All right, and so that implies that Will Ferrell's character is going to die at the end too. But she doesn't want to, because she doesn't want to be responsible for a guy's death. Well, one of her friends, played by Dustin Hoffman, tells her that if she doesn't go through with it, if she just writes off a little happy ending, then her book will be forgotten forever. But if she follows through, it'll be hailed as a masterpiece. And even still, she can't do it. She saves his life, and she has him get hit by a bus. But he's fine. He'll recover. By the same token, the movie kind of faded from memory because it didn't go all the way and have the balls to kill their main character. What didn't you like about it, Anthony?
Now that's a fascinating meta.
That's a what?
That's a fascinating meta commentary.
Yes.
Now, possibly what did you not unintentionally.
Like I don't know. It felt pretty obvious. Felt pretty clear.
Well, what I mean is, like, the fact that it didn't do as well as that was like forgotten assault might have been unintentional, but also kind of strengthens the message. But
right.
What I didn't like about it is very simple. I don't have a problem with it in concept. I don't necessarily have a problem with it in message. I have a problem that it was incredibly, unbelievably boring.
Ah.
It was one of the most boring movies I've ever tried to sit through.
Oh, how old were you when you watched it?
Ending. I don't know.
I
literally, I cannot tell you. I hated it. Although, to be fair, I hate almost everything Will Ferrell is in.
I totally agree with you. I'm not a Will Ferrell fan at all.
Like,
I hate Anchorman.
I didn't like Anchorman.
Nope.
I was not a fan of Anchorman.
Yep.
What did I like him in? Let me.
To be fair, my favorite part of it was the fight scene. I think that's in Anchorman 2, actually.
Oh, and I've never watched Anchorman 2 because I hated Anchorman 1 so much.
Yeah. I enjoyed it. Like, the best part about it is Steve Carell going, I think I killed a guy. Yeah, man, that trident was out there. Wow, just crazy how that happened. Like, they're trying to play it off like no big deal. And,
right.
And it's like, but he killed a man. You know, he just threw a trident into a random anchor person from some no-name network. Nobody cares.
I will agree with you. Steve Carell was definitely the best part of that movie.
Yep. I didn't enjoy the rest of it though.
Oh, fair.
I can't even remember the rest of it.
I like Will Ferrell in SNL.
Yeah.
He had some good skits.
I liked some of Will Ferrell in SNL.
Celebrity Jeopardy is great.
Yeah, but that was great because of everyone else. Mostly because of the guy playing Sean Connery. And eventually Norm Macdonald playing Burt Reynolds.
Burt Reynolds, yes.
Yeah, it's a hat.
I mean,
yeah, it's big.
Will Ferrell was good in it too, I think. And Will Ferrell as the devil. If you've ever seen the Garth Brooks skit where Will Ferrell is the devil, now that is funny.
Was it? Okay, I'll look for that one.
We don't have Will Ferrell in Pinkerton's Ghost, in case anyone's scared. That we'll have a celebrity guest star.
And we never will. I can promise you that. I will never have that happen.
Thank you.
But Will Ferrell as the Will Ferrell devil skit It was when Garth Brooks was the guest. So if
Uh-huh.
for people who don't know, country star. But
Everyone
anyway,
knows Garth Brooks, just like everyone knows Wayne
I
Gretzky.
don't know if I genuinely have no idea how famous he is. I actually don't hate country, which makes me unusual.
Well, in
So
New Jersey, maybe.
yeah, in New Jersey, I should say, it makes me unusual. So, and probably in California as well.
Right.
Maybe not in Missouri, but anyway.
This is the state of Branson.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Branson.
The point is, so the skit was Garth Brooks' girlfriend leaves him and he's alone in his apartment. He's not doing well. And he says, I'd sell my soul for a hit song. And Will Ferrell as the devil comes in and says, so you said you would sell your soul for a song? And they shake hands. And then he starts playing him different songs, but the songs are all terrible.
That's a great premise.
And when he leaves, he goes, the devil's trying to write a love song, and then he realizes he comes up with an idea for an actual Garth Brooks song called "The Devil Can't Write a Love Song." So the joke being that's where he got the idea. The skit is hysterical. I actually recommend it. I mean, I'm not going to quote it because it's a skit with intentionally bad singing, and that is cringe quote.
Agreed.
But I recommend you Google it one day.
I actually have Googled it right now to watch after the stream.
Good. Hopefully you'll enjoy it. I don't think that Will Ferrell is unfunny necessarily. Like, I think he has the ability to be funny, but Talladega Nights I absolutely despise. I don't think it's even remotely funny.
No.
So I have a classification that I give to certain shows and movies that I call anti-funny, where they try to be funny, but they're so not funny, they suck humor out of the room and make the world a little bit deader. Talladega Nights is in that category. It is an anti-funny movie.
As are every single Adam Sandler movie.
Feel a little bit cold. What was that?
As are every Adam Sandler movie since the early 2000s.
What a review.
Yes.
This thing makes the world go a little cold.
2020 was bad. This somehow made it worse.
It makes the world just seem a little bit colder. Other things in this category. 2.5 Men is in this category.
Fair.
I don't understand why that show's popular. I never understood it. Because whenever I watch it, Big Bang Theory is one of my secret shame shows in that I actually joke sometimes.
Oh, Anthony.
However, that's the nicest thing I will say about it.
Oh, Anthony.
It's a sterling recommendation. I don't know. Every now and then, I laugh at certain jokes.
Oh.
I can't believe it.
I can't either. I'm so ashamed of Anthony right now.
To associate with such a man. Anyway.
Two Broke Girls is anti-funny. Again, whenever, one of those things, you're flipping TV because you're during the day for some reason. You leave it on because you're not really paying much attention. Then you listen to the jokes and you just feel the world get a little bit worse. Yeah. They make a joke, or what's apparently supposed to be a joke because the laugh track is going. And then you go, my God, were there people laughing at that?
So
was that meant to be funny?
I don't think anyone's ever laughed.
What is wrong with people?
No, having been one of those test audiences several times in the past.
Oh, have you?
Oh yeah, I mean, you don't laugh. You're pretty much paid to laugh at things that you think are actually that they leave a pause for you to laugh at. It's like, oh, I better laugh at this, and then you do, and they pay you at the end of the day.
Honestly, that's kind of funny.
Sorry, Ben, though I could cut you off.
So it's like one of those things where a lot of people don't kind of get into the Crypt Keeper stuff, but man, I love the Crypt Keeper. I loved everything about the Crypt Keeper. It's one of those things no one really talks about him anymore, or at least what they used to do. But and he just the most recent thing with him was Robot Chicken sketches. That's how background he is. But it's I think you'll find this next episode shocking. And then he's electrocuted on the chair.
Yes, that's
It's
why I hated him,
fantastic.
because he was all about puns.
I loved him. I loved him so much. Everything. I don't even watch the horror flicks. I just look up compilations of his puns. It's
I need to-
fantastic.
Someday I need to psychoanalyze why I hate puns so much.
Maybe you had an English teacher that got a little too friendly, and you don't want to wake those memories up.
Ooh. Considering my English teachers, I sure hope that's not the case, because I remember them.
No, I'm kidding. I had great English teachers.
I did too.
Fantastic. Oh yeah,
They were actually some of my favorite teachers in high school.
Oh yeah, we got
I
some
am
comments.
an English teacher in high school.
We have comments? What are the comments?
Cordell Mitchell says, "Now you got me thinking about One Piece. Since you brought up pirates, I started watching it again. Watching it? No, the Chad way is to read it. Read the manga. Though to be fair,
Yeah,
it is
sorry.
one
One
of those-
Piece anime is very hard to watch.
You gotta kind of do stuff while you're doing it. Otherwise, it's just like they're staring at each other talking because they do one chapter per episode, and it feels bad. Though he mentions the Norm Macdonald SNL skits. Yeah, they crushed. They absolutely crushed. That's a fantastic opinion. Amazing. 10 out of 10 opinion. I enjoyed the one where it's like, behold, I can't remember. He was showing up some graphs, and he goes, as you can see, these don't add up to 100% because
Yes, that's right.
a woman did the math.
Oh, yeah.
And
Yes.
then everyone goes, and then he's like, don't worry, this joke was written by a woman. Now
Yes.
you don't know what to think. Pause
Yes.
again.
Yep.
Just
The
kidding.
perfect ending.
We don't hire women.
Yes, I love it.
And then I saw him, he was being interviewed about that joke later. He goes, the thing is, he goes, I wasn't really joking at the end of it. Like, we actually didn't hire women at the
Yes.
time.
Yeah. Because they weren't funny.
Yeah, he goes, he's going, women, he goes, I don't know what it is. Women are,
All right, Ken.
I mean, who's funny?
Yes.
And then he goes, who's funnier than Sarah Silverman? Well, except dudes, of course. But besides that,
Yes.
I gotta know, Ken. Why
What's
in the
that?
world do aging female actors who maybe have done one comedy show or something like that,
Mhm.
do they have to do ethnic impressions?
I have no idea. I was actually one of my friends is a female stand-up comic, and she's okay. She's pretty funny. For a woman.
Is
For a
that
woman.
so?
For a woman.
we're a woman.
And I've asked her several times. I've said her main shtick is she does clean comedy, which I think is fantastic. I would have no problem. If I had kids, I'd have no problem with them watching her. She's the only female comedian I know who does not make herself a total slut on stage. And I've watched a lot of them. It is really depressing. And I asked her why.
Yeah.
And she says she has no idea, but for whatever reason, female comedians, they think the only way they can get a laugh isn't by being funny, but is by being a slut. That's why
Yeah.
Tina Fey was probably the funniest comedian I've ever watched. I loved 30 Rock. I thought her movies were hysterical. I even enjoyed The Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt, the one season I watched of it. I don't know if it actually went downhill or not after season 2, but
That was Erin from The Office played the
Yes.
lead character, right?
yep.
I forget her name off the top of my head, but yeah.
Oh yeah, no one
Uh,
remembers her name.
She was cute in The Office. That's the most I can say about her, though. Yeah.
Sure. And she's cute in Kimmy Schmidt.
She was cute in The Office.
Yeah.
But
What?
She kind of
That's
plays that adorable.
I disagree. I do not find her attractive whatsoever.
I don't mean physically attractive. She just kind of got that adorable personality.
yeah, yeah, that's about right. I think that's fair.
Yeah. And maybe I'll give her this. She's kind of got that girl next door kind of attractiveness. Not necessarily what you'd consider a Hollywood beauty.
Yes. I agree. Although she is she's almost Hollywood girl next door. In that, she is probably something I don't know, a 7 or a 7.5 out of 10, which is not really girl next door. That's actually well above average, and
You thought she was a 7?
compared to most Hollywood, that's probably like well below what a leading lady would be.
Ben,
which
I
is
think we
at
need to.
like a 9.
Well,
Ben, we need to have an intervention for Anthony if he
he's
thinks
from New
he's a
Jersey.
7.
Okay, he's from.
Oh,
New
that's a good
Jersey.
point.
Right.
That's good. I keep forgetting about that. Yeah.
If I think she's a 7,
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I forget
I
you're
don't
from New
know
Jersey.
I'm shocked as to why anybody would think that she wasn't.
I mean,
I'd
you
give her
know,
6
yeah,
tops.
6, but you know, it's I don't. Anthony, please.
Yeah, we should call this one the live stream where the guys objectify women.
Objectify. Oh no, that's
Or apply numbers too.
sure. No.
You look. I'm just gonna come right in and say, I could not tell you how little I care about that criticism.
Fair.
I could not care less. I will tell you right now that if we had one of the several women who have appeared on the show right now,
Mhm.
I would not be changing how I was speaking even slightly.
Oh no, and neither should you. That would show a moral lack of character if you changed how you were speaking just because they were here.
I mean, don't get me wrong. There are certain things I would probably try and be a little bit more tactful about if the women's were here.
Well,
You know,
yes.
the girl folk. No.
The weaker vessels, as we call them in the Bible.
Classic.
Yes. The distaff side. But
I actually like that one. That one's pretty cool.
I haven't heard that one. It's hysterical.
But with that said, like this conversation though, no, I would have it if the women were here. Like, who gives a shit? But all right, so you mentioned we've had this conversation on Discord before, and I said, you want to know what the saddest thing about comedy is to me? That my favorite comedian has always been, and still is to this day, when I re-listen to different skits and things, Bill Cosby.
Oh yeah,
It's fantastic.
I agree.
And
agree.
I don't say this like I'm not even going to even pretend to defend Bill Cosby,
Oh,
though
no.
I have seen people try.
Sure.
But I have no interest in it. If he's innocent, it certainly doesn't seem like it. That's the best I could say about it.
He's the most guilty innocent man I've ever seen.
Yeah, but
So at
you want to know something? He did family-friendly comedy that was also probably funnier than most of the dirty stuff.
True. What are you saying, Ben?
Oh, personally, like with all the stuff with Michael Jackson and other things, it's like, you know what? That's it. They're all innocent. If they promoted family values and weren't like a creep, you know, it's like, what are you talking about? This stuff, like, you're telling me that this man had a 50-year career and nobody did it until now? Like, and I know that systems are basically set up to, you know, hide abusers and stuff like that. But you're telling me this man was serial in every way of that word. And all of a sudden, you know, he was just completely, you know, like, wow, didn't see it. Like, like, it wasn't even treated like an open Hollywood secret like the Weinsteins. You know,
Right.
it's like, to me, it's like, you know, sure, Weinstein, you know, power and all that jazz. You're telling me that this guy who does more or less clean comedy and family and is one of the strongest forces for the black family, you know, they would rather, like, of course they would try to destroy him. Like, why
Sure.
in the world wouldn't they try to destroy him? And
You raise a good point there.
So,
and with all the crazy stuff in this world,
if you're referring to Cosby or Jackson or both,
Cosby for the black family stuff, but Jackson in general. Sorry, but Cosby in general.
I mean, as far as Cosby goes, like, from what I've heard about it, like, you know, like I said, it's the way that I see it, I have no interest in defending or attacking him. My only commentary is, from what I've heard, he certainly sounds like he was guilty. But
Except for the
you
fact
know,
that he got let out.
Yeah, I haven't really looked into it deeply, but it certainly looks bad. As far as Michael Jackson goes, I did watch Razor Fist series on him, so I would tend to believe that Michael Jackson was not a pedophile. With that said, every time I hear he was like a kid himself, it makes the hairs on the back of my neck stand up,
Yeah.
because
yeah.
that is like the reddest flag.
Right.
That's something I personally like. Just is like, no, I am avoiding that sort of description like the plague. It
Right.
isn't happening.
Yeah,
I
I
will.
hear that. That's the only thing that makes me think, like, because Razor Fist Defense is pretty good. Like, it's
Yes.
pretty thorough. But whenever I hear someone describing, like, honestly, Big Kid himself, that makes me go, yeah,
Yeah.
maybe he was guilty.
Yeah.
Because that's not something you want to hear.
Yep. That's why it's like when I'm dealing with other people's kids, it's like, no, I'm very careful. No, I'm not going to pick you up. Go away.
Yeah. Right.
I know this is very cold and that we're in, blah, 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 one of the few bastions of Christian society running around in America. But not happening.
Yeah. Nah. Don't touch kids. Just common sense.
Yep, they hand them to you. You politely say, "I am uncomfortable with this, and I will not
That's
be
right.
leaving the common areas for any reason. This kid's
That's
gonna
right.
have to go to the bathroom on the floor and undo all this potty training. I am leaving immediately. Gma, there's your Gma. Go to Gma." And then I like jump out a window. Yes, I am socially awkward. How could you tell?
Right.
Yeah, no, it's with all the stuff going out there, like, you have to protect yourself, and even
really
then,
do.
it's like they can manufacture anything, and
Sure.
they're probably going to, eventually,
Yeah.
in my opinion, anyway.
Sad but true.
And it's like, if Bill Cosby was real, fine, I guess, but it was just predators taking it out on other predators or wannabe predators, because nobody in Hollywood is who gets that deep into Hollywood is innocent of any kind.
Yes, I was about to say, please don't throw me in the bus here.
But don't you worry. We'll keep an eye out. When you turn evil, I'll be there with the mercy shot. And
I get the feeling I wouldn't be sexual predator evil. I'd be torturing homeless people and putting them in my freezer evil.
Ooh, the classic. You don't
Exactly.
see enough of these classic guys anymore.
I know.
And it would make an excellent fodder for a real-life true crime Pinkerton's ghost story. And true
Have you ever
Exactly.
seen they made a parody of the Monster Mash that had like modern movie monsters in it, and it's actually really funny. So they had like, I don't know, I forget the name of the monster, but like Leatherface, I think, who I
Oh.
think is Texas Chainsaw Massacre, but I might
Yeah,
be
that'd
wrong.
be Chainsaw Massacre.
And they go, so they have like, Frankenstein is singing the song in the very classy way that he does the song.
Right.
And then they get to Leatherface, and then he goes, "Wait, oh my God, what's he doing?" And then they just have someone go, "He ate her face." What? Why did he do that? He goes, "It's what he does." And he goes, "Oh my God, that's disgusting."
Exactly.
Pretty funny.
That's true. I mean, the old monsters, they're just looking for love. The new monsters, they just want death.
Yeah, the mummy just wants love.
That's right. Dracula, he was just looking for a new bride. Frankenstein, he was just looking to be loved by his creator.
You want to know something? I've watched of the old monster movies. I've watched Frankenstein and Bride of Frankenstein, and both movies, especially Bride of Frankenstein, are actually really, really good.
I watched.
Bride is fantastic. Bride is actually like a great movie.
I saw this is really well done. I watched a theater version, or a filmed version of the theater play of Frankenstein, where Benedict Cumberbatch and I want to say Johnny Lee Mills or whatever, whoever the American is.
Johnny Lee Miller, he's good.
Yeah,
I know him. He's a good actor.
Yeah, one night they played the monster, and then the other person played the doctor, and then they switched it so that the next night, the actor switched.
Oh,
and
that's
it's incredible
cool.
Johnny Lee Miller, fantastic actor, but it's incredible to see how he pales in comparison to Benedict Cumberbatch.
Yeah,
they both,
they both played modern versions of Sherlock Holmes.
Right.
Benedict Cumberbatch played him in Sherlock,
right?
And Johnny Lee Miller played him in Elementary,
right?
And Sherlock went downhill in the later seasons, but not through any fault of Benedict Cumberbatch, who put on a sterling performance.
Sure.
Johnny Lee Miller in Elementary, I just don't think that Elementary was as ambitious of a show.
Agreed.
So I don't think he really had as much opportunity to flex his acting chops anyway.
Sure.
but he just wasn't as good.
Right. I agree. Well,
Like,
Benedict
I
Cumberbatch,
don't
he
think
is.
Elementary was a particularly good show either. I think that Sherlock actually was great, at least for like the first 2 seasons or so, for various times.
I would
Uh,
say it feels great until you watch it in retrospect and you realize that it was all kind of smart boy gamma pandering from Moffat trying to make you think he was better than he was.
I'd argue that the first 2 seasons are very good, especially the Reichenbach Fall was excellent. Hounds of Baskerville was excellent. I really liked The Great Game. A lot of those episodes, but you're right. It's definitely not as retrospect. That was a show that was a bubble burst show for me because they did the Christmas special.
Mm.
And the Christmas special was one of the worst pieces of media I have ever watched in my life. It was, My Last Jedi at the time. I've
Ooh.
always described the Prince Caspian movie as My Last Jedi, but to be honest, I was actually like more into Sherlock at the time. And after watching the Christmas special was so bad, it like burst the bubble kind of surrounding Sherlock, which is a show that I'm pretty set up to like because I
Right.
adore Sherlock Holmes and I love different takes on stories and things, So a modernization of Sherlock Holmes with high production values and good acting should be right up my alley, and it was.
Sure. Right.
And I was really looking forward to the Christmas special because they said, "Oh, it's going to be set in Victorian Britain." I'm like, "That's a cool idea." I'd like to see what they could do with a more the classic Sherlock Holmes setting and these characters, right? And it was horrendous.
Of course it was.
It was insultingly bad.
Yes.
And it was so bad, it made me like look back at the show and reconsider, like, was it not as good as I thought it was? And I hate that it did that. Yeah, but
yeah, I hate when shows do that too.
And you're absolutely right. Sherlock was definitely not as good as I originally thought, but I still think it was good.
If you enjoyed it, then I'm not going to try and tell you were wrong. It wasn't something I very much enjoyed.
I will also argue that Martin Freeman was absolutely brilliant as Watson.
Yes.
Absolutely.
He is, to me, the definitive Watson. I don't think
I agree.
even Jude Law, as good as he is, I think Martin Freeman was even better.
I would even argue that Jude Law might even agree with you.
And Jude Law was an excellent Watson, by the way.
He really was. I agree.
I really liked him in the Robert Downey Jr. movies, which I think were underrated.
I think so too. I think Robert Downey Jr. was a surprisingly good Sherlock Holmes.
He was.
Yeah, it was I think it was a decent adaptation,
Yeah.
It did turn Holmes into something of an action movie star. Now,
Yeah.
I'm a Holmes nerd, right? So like I've read all 60 of the original Sherlock Holmes stories. I've read I read a pastiche by Anthony Horowitz, who's the Alex Rider writer, called Moriarty. That's about like that was set during the Great Hiatus. Let's see. I've watched Sherlock. I've watched the Jeremy Brett Sherlock Holmes. I've watched the Basil Rathbone Hound of the Baskervilles, and I've watched the Robert Downey Jr. movies. So, of all those versions, I think the best portrayal of Holmes of that group, I would argue, is Basil Rathbone, is most accurate to the books.
Sure.
But I would argue that the best Watson of that group is Martin Freeman.
Yeah, I would agree.
He is absolutely brilliant in the role, and it's a thing, especially in the later seasons. It's a thankless role. They really like throw that character under the bus in the later seasons.
They really did.
Crappy. With whoever decided to bring in Mary into the show, that was just such a bad decision on so many levels.
Oh no, the BBC making a bad casting decision? Who knew?
Oh, it wasn't the casting. It was all the writing.
Yeah. Well, the writing's been even more trash lately.
Not that I think that the casting was particularly good or anything. Like, I forget the name of the woman who played Mary, but it's not that I think, like, she was brilliant in the role, but I'm not sure if I could blame her for what the hell they did with that character.
Well, the funny thing is, the woman that played that role is Martin Freeman's wife. Or I guess partner, I guess they're technically called, but...
Yeah. Like, the writing in that role was a mess.
Right.
And I don't think she did anything to elevate it. But I also don't think she was, like, particularly bad, I think if they wrote her better, she could have been fine. The finale of Sherlock which was called The Final Problem, I believe, was awful, truly terrible. It was not as bad as the Christmas special, but it was bad. It involved, like, Sherlock having a secret sister who may or may not have had mind control powers. It didn't make any sense at all. It was complete nonsense. They have this scene at the beginning that is so silly, it's unintentionally funny, where a bomb goes off and they show them jumping away from the bomb in slow motion. Like,
this is the one where Henry Cavill played Sherlock, right?
What is this? What'd you say?
Was that the one where Henry Cavill played Sherlock Holmes?
No, you're thinking of the one.
Yeah, briefly.
He played him in a Netflix movie. No, I'm referring to the finale of the Moffat Sherlock show. So this is Benedict Cumberbatch.
Okay, I had stopped watching the show by the time they introduced the sister, so I didn't even remember she existed in the Moffat ones.
That's fine. She only appears in one episode, really.
Fair.
And it was a very bad episode.
Yeah.
Yeah, Sherlock disappoints me in retrospect. At one time, I would have described it as my favorite show, but I overrated it because I was taken in by, the premise and the good acting and the production values.
Sure.
And I do think it was decent for a while, but it was definitely not as good as I thought it was at the time.
At the time when it came out, I said I liked it a lot just because one of my friends liked it, and every once in a while, my opinions vary not based on what I actually think, but based on what my friends think, and I want to feel like I fit in.
That's fair.
Yes, but no, it's always been trash. He also is the friend that got me into Doctor Who.
The acting was great. I still think that the Reichenbach Fall was a fantastic episode.
I like that. That was a good episode. I would agree with you there.
I think what they did with it, the aftermath of it, with the empty hearse, at the time, I managed to convince myself that I liked the empty hearse, but now looking back on it, in a post-Christmas special world, it was a mess.
Yeah, absolutely.
They really had no clue what to do with it. No. I think they were intimidated by the fact that the show was way more popular than they thought it would be, so everybody hyper-analyzed that scene, which means that fans had already figured out how he survived.
Right.
Now, the right response to that is to just stick with your guns anyway. So some of the fans figured it out. Who cares?
Right.
Most of them still didn't.
Sure.
They should have just played it straight and kept going. But I think they were intimidated by the fact that everybody had already figured it out. So they started playing like with the meta, and it was really weird and very awkward.
Now, I'm trying to remember, just because I kind of basically this was the episode that killed it for me. Was the one right after he comes back to life. Do I recall correctly that and as I recall, the actual plot or whatever was he just got a whole bunch of people to basically do a flash mob to kind of make Moriarty think he had died.
Yes, as far as the solution goes, I think it was fine. But I think they would have done a lot better if they had just played it straight and, so people figured it out. Who cares?
Right.
To be honest, only the people who would have been really, really into the show would know it anyway. The vast majority of viewers wouldn't have.
Sure. Absolutely.
I'm going, I know that you don't like Harry Potter, but I'm going to bring up Harry Potter here as a comparison. So forgive me. But
like I've said in the past, Harry Potter is fine. It's just I hate the overuse of it.
Not for you.
Yeah.
Yes. But in book 6, after Snape kills Dumbledore, everybody figured out pretty quickly that Snape was probably like working for Dumbledore in some capacity and needed to keep his cover and was still a good guy.
Right.
Right. But when you read it at the time, and me too, like as a long-term theories, which I very much was at the time, that moment, you are not thinking that when you're reading it, right? Just like when you're watching the Reichenbach Fall, you are not thinking of, how did Sherlock survive? You're thinking of, Jesus, that very much looked like a suicide.
Right.
Which is why the moment works, right? It's really shocking. You're very curious as to how the guy... Sure, you analyze it later, and it's relatively obvious in both cases that Snape is a good guy, that Sherlock probably just had people had people around, as paid actors to act like he was dead, which is pretty much what happened, right?
Right.
Especially because he approaches Molly, who works in the morgue, so it wouldn't have been that hard to secure a dead body.
Right.
So that's great and all. But in Harry Potter, I think Rowling, and for all the faults of the last book, I think Rowling does the right thing and just plays Snape's, face heel turn straight. You learn that Snape was a good guy. She plays the whole thing straight. And everybody seems to more or less agree that the reveal works very well. It's honestly one of the better chapters in the book and the series.
Sure.
Where you learn Snape's backstory and you learn that he was motivated. Was it a surprise? No, not really. I mean, like, by that point in the story, if you had been following the fandom at all, like even a little bit, this had already been more or less figured out. But Rowling, I think, did the right thing. She wasn't intimidated by it. She played her story straight. I think that Moffat should have done the same thing.
Sure.
I think that he should have just revealed it. And if people said, oh, it's too, I figured it out, well, I think it would have done better if, because in universe, I guess, is what I'm trying to say, it wouldn't have been obvious.
Right.
Like, I think that the setup to the suicide and everything, and also scene is, by the way, in the Reichenbach Fall, for all of the faults of Sherlock, and it had many faults, that scene is incredible.
Right. I agree.
When Moriarty shoots himself and Holmes jumps off the building.
Right.
That is an unbelievable scene. It's still one of my favorites. It's so high tension when you watch it. And I think it's a shame. Sherlock is a show. I guess to me, that's what I really think of it. Like, I consider it almost a tragic story because it had the potential to be a great show. And Moffat just kind of shot it to the ground.
Right. He gammed his way out of a good show.
Yeah. He gammed his way out of a great show. Elementary was never, which was the other modern Sherlock adaptation, was never as good as Sherlock at its best, and probably never as bad as its worst. Though honestly, I couldn't tell you because I found it too uninteresting to watch.
It was a SJW fest by having a woman be Watson, so I never cared to it.
Yeah, the female Watson was annoying.
Even though I love the actress, I think she's fantastic in most things.
Oh, sure. I mean, I don't know if, to be honest, I didn't watch enough of it to tell you if the character was even annoying. However, I just have such a fundamental issue with making Watson a woman.
Right.
Like, that's not Watson. Watson is not a woman. Like, stop calling... I just watch it, and in my mind, I'm like, stop calling this character Watson.
Yeah. And you kind of do a little autistic shrinkage every once in a while.
Yeah. I'm playing Great Ace Attorney, and in Great Ace Attorney, Sherlock Holmes is in it, and Watson is in it, although they have to change the names for copyright reasons.
Of course.
It doesn't matter. But Sherlock Holmes and Watson. In Japan, that's how they were presented. And the Watson that we are introduced to in the story is actually a 10-year-old girl who is the daughter of John H. Watson. The thing is, though, that in Great Ace Attorney, this is completely different because we're not asked to accept that this is actually the same character that we're reading about in the books.
Right.
Like, she is explicitly the daughter of that character. And sure, she is more or less taking that role, kind of, in the story.
Right.
But at least I'm not asked to look at her and go, so anyway, this is Watson. Like, the Watson that you've been reading about, this is actually her. And
well,
I'm like,
also, I mean, it's also Ace Attorney, so you're not supposed to take any of it seriously.
Yeah, it's also Ace Attorney is a rather ludicrous universe anyway.
Yes.
They beat each other while they're on the courts, and it's like,
They whip.
Exactly.
They take someone carries a whip with them. They whip the judge in the middle of the trial, which is pretty funny. But
Japan.
Ace Attorney, yeah, and I am of course very fond of Ace Attorney, and Great Ace Attorney is very good, but there is a certain level of unreality to it that I think helps more than hurts.
Right.
And in this case, although I did find it very funny, so I'm gonna be fair here and say I don't think this is really an SJW thing, but one of the main characters is your judicial assistant, and she's a woman. Okay. And this is like Ace Attorney tradition. that your sidekick is generally a cute
Sure.
young woman.
Of course, they got to get the eye candy for the boys.
So this has been Ace Attorney tradition pretty much since the earliest days of the series. You had Maya in the original Ace Attorney series, sometimes replaced with various different female characters, but there's always someone who's the sidekick, who is a cute young woman.
Sure.
And in this version, it is Suzuto. And Suzuto is your judicial assistant in Britain, and Holmes treats her very much like an equal. And I'm like, that's not like Sherlock Holmes at all.
That's right. He thought women were stupid.
Yes, he did. Also, he has some sort of line where, again, to be fair, I think this is just to make the game work because they want you to be friends with Holmes, and you're Japanese, right? So he's hanging out with a Japanese guy, and you're living with him. So they have Holmes say something like, I found that people from all over the world are pretty much all just human. And I'm like, really, Holmes? Because that's not what you said when you identified the footprints of the pygmy from the Amazon and then said that they tended to be violent and mean. And also, you were right. Because the pygmy later tries to kill you with a poison dart.
Oh, Holmes.
Like, that doesn't sound like... Yeah, that doesn't sound like you at all. You don't seem to think that all humans are the same. You seem to be very convinced that there were certain humans who were definitely more violent, stupid, and mean than others. But sure, I mean...
There's the lie, though!
Yeah. I mean, that's such like, that's really an unfair nitpick.
Ken, don't reveal your power level too early.
Oh, no!
I mean, that's really...
Over 9,000!
That's really an unfair nitpick on my part, though, because I know why they're doing it. They're doing it because the main character's Japanese, and Holmes is hanging out with him. So he needs to have at least a somewhat cosmopolitan attitude, to make it work.
Sure.
So I don't mean to be overly critical of it. It's the same thing with, Holmes is treating the women a little bit more equally than he does in the stories. But again... That's just because they want women among the main characters, and they want Holmes to be interacting with them. So fine, whatever. Like, I'm not going to sweat it, but I do find it funny. I especially found that line funny. I also like that they changed his cocaine addiction to a caramel addiction, probably because kids are playing this game.
He's got that powdered sugar.
That's right. Perfect. Oh, speaking of powdered sugar and addictions, by any chance, are you guys going to watch the new Dune movie?
No.
No.
Really?
I might see Halloween Kills.
Oh, I've heard horrible things about Halloween Kills.
Yeah, I've heard it's horrendous.
I heard he murders people from every race and color. And being an ardent fan of diversity, I just can't miss it. Also, I'm a big fan of the Halloween series.
Fair. I forgot your horror fascination is the entire reason this series exists.
Yep.
So, I do not watch Hollywood movies anymore. The only movies that I really see are limited release anime films.
Fair. And of course, you'd watch any movie that I was in. Of course. Right? Right, Anthony? Right?
Obvious.
Yeah,
of course. Bradford Walker writes, no.
Beautiful.
Well done, Bradford. Perfect. I'm sure that wasn't the timing intended, but very well done.
Because
there's always a delay.
I do not watch Hollywood movies. I will go and see Howl's Moving Castle is currently in theaters right now.
Is it?
It's actually in a theater that's like a half hour away from me. So I am definitely going to go see it.
Yeah, I liked that movie. There's also one of the few dubs I really enjoyed. All the Ghibli dubs I thought were very good.
Howl's Moving Castle is great and has a very good dub. It's not my favorite of the Ghibli dub. That was when the Ghibli movies were getting bigger, so they started doing like celebrity stunt casting with.
Well, they did that. I mean, even Princess Mononoke had Scully as a monster, and they had several big actors. Nausicaa had Jean-Luc Picard as a character.
So I feel like in those earlier Ghibli movies, though, they weren't getting them because they were like big celebrities necessarily. Whereas in the later ones, it's like, Carol Burnett plays a role. in
know
the
that.
secret world of Arrietty, and I think she
Oh.
really overacts it.
Yeah,
Even
well,
though
that's just her.
I am fond of Carol Burnett. I think that she is hilarious.
Sure, but she is definitely an overactor, even in her good stuff.
Yes. I mean no disrespect to Carol Burnett, who is very funny. However, she
Right.
definitely, I think, overhams it, and I really think you could hear some celebrity stunt casting in Ponyo. Tina
Oh,
Fey is
sure.
actually very good in Ponyo, but
Right.
Betty White, I do not think is.
No, I agree.
I feel like that she was just cast because she was Betty White.
I could see that. And that's why I think Spirited Away was probably their best dub, because I don't
Oh yeah,
recall any.
Spirited Away is an unbelievable dub. It's one of the best dubs ever.
Yeah, and I don't believe there are any stunt actors in that one.
I think Spirited Away is when was the point after Spirited Away won the Oscar.
Oh yeah, that's why.
When Disney started doing things like getting Christian Bale to play Howl.
Right.
With
Well,
that,
also,
in Howl's moving
Sophia
castle,
Loren.
what
I
was
love that they got Sophia Loren. I think it was Sophia Loren to play Sophie's character, her old self. Maybe it wasn't Sophia Loren, but it was an old character.
They had Lauren Bacall in that.
Lauren Bacall, that was it. That was it.
She played the Witch of the Waste.
I thought she did pretty good.
Yeah, I thought she was great.
Even
So
though
to
a
be
lot
fair
of them
to
are
Howl's
like,
Moving Castle, I think that it was mostly. I actually do think it was mostly well cast. Even the big celebrities like Christian Bale, I actually think did a very good job as Hal. I thought he was a little bit flat, but my sister points out to me that if you go by the book, that's actually quite accurate to how the character is described. So fair enough.
What were you going to say, Ben?
I actually don't have a problem with celebrity casting as long as they're good. Even though it does take away jobs from good, honest voice actors like yourself.
Yes!
It's like one of those things. It's like, what are you going to do? You got to have money for these things. You know, we are stuck in this system for this stuff. You know, like you know, like nobody cares. Like really, really, maybe they have a favorite actor or something like that they follow. But I think that time's pretty solidly going away.
All right.
So it's just like, you know, who cares? You know, most of the actors coming out in the new generation are incredibly unpleasant and just not worth it. Like some of them, sure, like you know, they might say, oh well, you know, he's actually well liked, and I'm like, but which side of Rotten Tomatoes likes him?
Yeah. True.
You know, the only thing that really matters is audience participation, I guess.
Right.
And even then, for a lot of this stuff. Now, will we have celebrity voice actors on Pinkerton's Ghosts? Yes, but it will be a trap. It's totally a trap. Bradford Walker says, well, he says a bunch of stuff. I would buy an island and do IRL battle royales using invited participants taken from converged institutions. There's a ticket to get off the island, and there's 150 of you sorted out. I would say that basically you would never see such simping in your life. He says, David Stewart has a review of Dune. As expected, nope. Yeah, no. I'm not going to see it on the strength that Zendaya is in it.
Yeah, that's true. I forgot she was in it. That does kill it for me then.
Yep.
I hadn't even forgot about her.
Ghibli dubs are good because of the implied threat of assassination for screwing it up. Yep, exactly.
Now, what Bradford Walker, I am sure, and what I said in his story,
couldn't hear you.
Where Harvey Weinstein. So, what Bradford Walker is referring to, and what I said in response chat, and what I'm referring to is, I'm sure the story where Harvey Weinstein, I believe this was with Princess Mononoke, wanted to make several cuts in Princess Mononoke, and Toshio Suzuki responded by sending him a samurai sword with a note on it that said "no cuts."
Perfect.
Amazing.
The best part of this is that this is a 100% real story, and we know this because Miyazaki was asked. They said, "Is it true you sent Harvey Weinstein a sword that said no cuts?" And he said, "No, that's absolutely not true. That was Toshio Suzuki."
Yes.
Who, for those who don't know, is the producer of the Ghibli movies, and probably as, if not more important than either of the two directors who ran the studio for so many years.
Yep.
Based.
Yeah.
It's a great story. That It happened after the terrible cut of Nausicaa of the Valley of the Wind, the Wars of the Cut. Jaji is somehow a fan of. What?
I don't understand. Like, I know Harvey Weinstein is very famous for doing that cut stuff. He did that with like the stuff he's doing with the Hellraiser franchise is just trash. But he's doing it half to spite a dude and half to like keep the control of the franchise, which used to be profitable. It is now in the ground. With if what's her name? If some of the Marvel stuff can be retaken by its authors, there actually is a lot of hope for things like Hellraiser, which is one of my personal favorite. Like, it's like the Halloween franchise, Hellraiser, like, on the strength of their first two movies alone, it's like, yeah, of course, they're fantastic.
Now, Hellraiser, that's the one with the
the
masochistic weird guys.
To tell you, to show you.
I actually know nothing about that series.
That's fine.
No,
other than
I don't
they're
know
a bunch of masochists.
It's people who live in sin get the just desserts for their sin.
Oh, fair.
Fair enough. As far as horror movies go, I really have not the original Scream, and I know that is widely disliked among our ilk, and for good reason, because it is very postmodern and, you know, takes the piss out of genre and horror and all of that stuff. But I did enjoy the original. Scream 2 was terrible. Even though it got better reviews, it's terrible. But the original Scream I liked a lot. It's really more of a black comedy than a horror movie, though, to be honest. So, yeah, watch at your own risk. I watched John Carpenter's The Thing, and I loved it.
Sure.
Absolutely awesome. Probably one of my favorite movies, period. Great movie, 10 of 10. Everybody should watch it.
Absolutely.
And let's see. Have I even watched any other horror movies?
I've seen The Exorcism of Emily Rose. I've never seen The Exorcist itself. Yeah.
I've seen quite a few movies. Probably one of my favorites is The Color Out of Space. And that may sound weird, but it's like, and I mean the new Nick Cage one too.
Right,
right. I know. It's popular.
I've heard great things about it.
It is good.
Yeah.
And it's just genuinely good.
Yeah.
And a witch gets her just desserts in the end for playing with fire.
Hey, perfect.
So, you know, it's got good moral lessons. I keep trying to, The Green Knight, even though that's not pure horror, it's more like fantasy, was also pretty good. Much better than we might believe it is for who made it. And their choice of Dev Patel is actually entirely based on the fact that he looks like a monarch. And I absolutely believe that it was a good choice to just choose something on aesthetics. So this is going to sound weird. James Bond should always be a native English person. And by that I mean white. However, I would certainly see a James Bond style movie with Idris Elba in it.
Absolutely.
Like, he's got the presence, he's got the chops. Even if it was like set in the James Bond universe, I would not have a single problem with it. You know, like it's like literally, this is 003 and this is his story and his adventures. No problems. But it's like at a certain point though, you know, what the actor does or what the actor can or can't do, it has to be put into context. And I think for the Green Knight, it actually works quite a bit. Because making him like the nephew, quote unquote, of Arthur and the, you know, and his mother's like an actual like Hindu witch, and all this other stuff actually plays it out pretty well, in my opinion. And also, the monster celebrates Christmas for its own sake, and it's like, wow, amazing! Like he's like excited. That the guy is here, but also, is it Christmas? Like, as in, like, he's actually enjoying the fact that it's Christmas. Like, they celebrate Christmas. Of course, they don't really mention Christ or anything like that.
Right.
But they, you know, it's like one of those things, they understand that the trappings have to be there. But the one with genuine humor about it is the Green Knight himself. which I think is fairly accurate, because it not accurate, but like in the sense of like, yeah, Morgana just whammied me into trying to scare Guinevere to death, and you're just caught in the blast, kid. Nothing really was ever going to happen. Translates pretty well. And of course they cut it off at just the right spot. And I'll let you guys figure it out. Bradford Walker says, concur, Elba as a non-bond, sold. Absolutely. I know tonight I have Shudder, which is a pretty good horror film thing, and they're giving out a month free right now. Am I actually going to pay for anything? No.
No.
Of course not. Why
We
would
don't
you?
give money to people who hate us.
Right?
Exactly.
And it's like, give money to like unauthorized and other stuff like that. Listen to Stefan Molly. Yes, please. Actually, that's a good point. We actually have a new subscriber, which is fantastic.
Speaking of money to people who hate you, did you guys see Squid Game?
Nope.
No.
Oh, it's very good. It's surprisingly superversive for it being from Netflix.
I can believe it.
Yeah.
It's actually
Critical drinker like it.
I thought it was Korean and then bought by Netflix.
I believe that's the way it was. Which is why season 2 is probably going to be pretty converged.
Oh, yeah. Drinker's analysis of it was hilarious as usual. I liked when he said, so everybody was pointing at, all of the critics are focusing on its critiques of capitalism. But let's be honest, guys, who gives a fuck what they think?
Exactly. 100% true. I'm disappointed you watched the review before you watched the show, though. It'll spoil a lot of the fun.
Nah, I've seen Kaiji Ultimate Survivor, and I liked it. So I'm sure the game's good.
Yeah, it's really...
By the way, if you haven't seen Kaiji, I do recommend it.
I have not. I will say that you guys are smart enough to guess most of the twists that happen, and the twists as they happen, you can be like, oh yeah, I knew that's how that was gonna go. In almost every situation, though, they still make it happen incredibly, pull off the twists incredibly well, and so that even though I knew this was where it was going, you still think, and I'm glad it went that way, because you got masterful storytelling.
Yeah, plot twists, being surprised by a plot twist is actually overrated.
Yeah.
So much as the plot twist needs to fit the story.
Yeah.
Whether you guess it or not isn't as important as I'm trying to think of how to put it. Isn't as important as story works.
Yep.
Yes.
And that's also actually what people compliment Squid Game over, is that the story works and the surprises are perfectly balanced to what the story foretells. That's one of the things I'm very careful about Pinkerton's Ghosts. Sure, we're at the beginning and we can do basically whatever we want. It's not much of a problem. But I have to be careful to know that where something XYZ will go. Like, something for doppelgangers that'll come up later and will continue to come up is actually quite nice. And it'll help, especially in the mid to late game of Pinkerton's Ghosts. But at the same time, it's like I can't let too many wacky things happen. Sometimes I'm going to have to say, okay, guys, you can't make any new toys. You have to use the ones that you've made previously. And that might kind of suck if we make bad decisions on what we allow in or not. Like, Nick Cage is a fantastic actor for horror. That may sound weird, but I think he's probably one of the better horror actors around. Partially because he can overact so well, but also because he's just got it. He understands the schlocky humor of it. Like, House on Haunted Hill is a fantastic horror story, and it's got several remakes. The most famous one is probably the Vincent Price original, but there's been a couple of good ones since then. And
wasn't a remake with Liam Neeson and Catherine Zeta-Jones?
I think that's the latest one.
Yeah,
maybe. But that one wasn't too bad actually. I still remember parts of it, which means that it's a good series, which means that it's more than decent. But like, Vincent Price purring every line with menace and dread, and there's actually some very clever wordplay that's actually very funny. It's why I don't worry about the fact that there's a lot of adventure in Pinkerton's Ghosts. Partially because I know that I have the chops to bring it back to horror when we need to, and even though I've never had to push the nuclear option, there should be plenty of horror in your guys' choices. Like, I know
What's the
this
nuclear option?
making you rewrite from the beginning.
No.
Yeah, I know you trembled with fear at the very, and of course, like, the reason why I give you guys my scripts early is because, yeah, you guys have that option too. If you guys tell me it absolutely stinks to high heaven, I need to know about it.
Right.
If I don't get that advice, I am blind to myself, even though I am a very good self editor.
Sure.
It's just going to be a failing. Like doppelgangers. There's some things with doppelgangers that can be adventure-y, but really it's got to be horror. Like, that's what the focus has to be.
Yes. Agreed.
The one after that, where we bring back Alexander the Great, that could be a bit more adventure. And some of the other ones, we'll have some adventure episodes in a row. Then we can do some horror episodes in a row. I can't remember what your next one is, Ken.
I honestly, I'm not gonna lie, I have no idea what my next one is. I haven't even thought about it. I pondered some monsters for a little while, but I haven't settled on one yet.
Sure. And there's things we can do, but like Corpse, very horror heavy in all the best ways. That was some pretty good stuff.
Thanks.
But like the next one, we could do a little more adventure. You could do a little more magic, but we'll see about that. Like, it's the balance. With Jack, so we have 5 episodes on the docket. The first one is Karen's Fee, and then the next one is Swallowed. Swallowed is more adventure with a very strong horror element. But Karen's Fee is basically a character drama with some horror into it that I'll use to pay off later. Then we have Faceless Night, which is just pure horror with an adventure ending. Like the thing, the static noises, the because it warps the very fabric of people trying to talk about it. Is seeping the memories out of a family, and Jack has to, is dragged through the fight as it, fights him in a very unnatural and stiff-armed way. Halls and Tombs is Crown of Atlantis. I need to rename that. The Crown of Atlantis is very adventure with mystery elements more than horror or anything else like that. Though a crown taking over somebody's brain is very strong horror. It's implied that the real horror happened to this guy, and that Jack is the one sent to clean it up. And then Big Easy Rumble, which is Sean and Jack working together, is going to be more detective horror, where they basically work together to try and track down and destroy this giant voodoo statue that can just do a number on people.
Sure.
And of course, sorry, go for it.
No, I apologize. Go for it.
And so it's like, that figuring out that balance. I can't do horror all the time. I've got to make sure that there's not a little bit of everything, but just the right flavors each time, so it's a different thing. So I can reasonably say to someone, hey, listen, if you don't like the first episode, which is very horror based, and I mean like the first episode, The Puppeteer, Bones of the Giants is also pretty horror, but Geisterhounds is much more adventure, and Chronos Tomb has its own unique flair that's just its own. And the same way with Jim's stories and Sean's stories. You don't like Ghosts of Griffith Park. Well, Popstar's Muse is very different. And the same way with Ghost Store and Hunted. It's got its charms, which is important to the Pinkerton experience. Like, it is just absolutely important.
Sure.
Yeah, what were you gonna say?
Oh, I was just going to say that I remembered my next story was actually going to be. There's been a meme circulating for a little while about how there are subs that have been lost at sea aren't actually considered destroyed. They're just considered currently still out. And every Christmas, the U.S. Navy will send out a message to all those lost submarines, wishing them a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. And my theory was, this would be a perfect opportunity to get as close as I'm actually willing to go to time travel and have one of those submarines turn up, and have it be dun 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 a World War II sub.
Ooh.
Yes, a ghost submarine. I haven't decided if I want it to be Nazi or American, but that is the theory at which I'm currently working towards.
Oh yeah, we could talk about it. I definitely liked what I saw of that because that was a pretty good meme.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like, yeah, absolutely, that's in the spirit. You know, Jim does something that pushes it to you know, pushes it to a kind of limit, and then we can really work with, we can just work with the spirit of it. Like
Exactly.
a lot of things with writing, especially, is that it doesn't matter what really you guys, you know, put out, as long as you guys have something. You know, I can do a lot more with it than probably even you guys who have worked with me for over a year on this would believe.
Sure. Absolutely. I 100% believe that's true.
But, you know, it's good stuff. And this
I've been enjoying it thus far.
Yeah. How about you, Anthony? You good? You enjoying it? I'm not too onerous. You looking forward to bricking me up in a wall? I bet you're looking forward to bricking me up in a wall next week.
That
That's
will be
right.
fun.
That's next week.
That
Forgot
is
about
next week.
that.
It's gonna be great.
Ooh.
My God. Recording the 5 orange clips. I started it. This is painful. Very long.
Yes. Well, I finished my reading of
I mean, it's
the
not-
Raven.
it's
I've gotten
not
it off
very
to my.
long. It's long compared to what I normally record, though.
I've gotten my copy of a Raven off to my music guy. He is going to be giving it a quick once over, make sure it actually sounds good, and then he's going to
Very
make make a score for it that hopefully will be properly spooky.
Spooky. And of course, I'd love to have his information so we can, you know, advertise his stuff.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
I'm getting my best Warriors impressions together so I can properly announce the stories and such like. And we do have quite a few little things coming up here. Let's see here. David Halquist, J.D. Cohen, Matthew Punjatore, Ken. We also have J.E. Tabor has a piece from Robert E. Howard, and a few other people have promised things, but I'm not going to worry about it till they show up. You learn some things in this business. You learn some things.
That's right. Nobody's reliable.
No, people are reliable. No, they're not reliable at all.
That's right.
You know, you gotta balance it out. Otherwise, you just sound cynical all the time. And I can't do that to me. What would little me think of myself from the past? Yes.
What would little me think of myself from the past?
Yes.
I feel like we're missing a few steps here.
Yeah.
Words, that's for sure.
What would you tell, you know, yourself back then? You know, blah, blah, blah. I hate that one. I hate it
I know,
so much.
I do too.
It's like, what would you change about yourself? Nothing, because I wouldn't be Ben Wheeler. You know,
that's
like,
right.
The journey to, like, to repair damage or whatever is not the same as the damage never taking place. And it's completely different. And it's frustrating when people equate the two things. But that's okay. They're normies. It's not like they think about philosophy. Do check out my philosophy vids. Do check out everything that we tend to do here. And we are, of course, looking forward to your Viking thing, Ken. Any
thank
word
you.
on when it's coming up?
Yeah, so we've had some irritating setbacks based on family health going forward, but Lou and I are still. We had really hoped for a Halloween premiere, but that is not looking feasible as every day pushes forward. So we are probably looking early November.
Hey, that's what you got to do.
Yes, exactly right.
All right. Well, sadly, I don't have much more. I think I might see The Color Out of Space, go out, get some McDonald's, enjoy Nick Cage at his best. His Five Nights at Freddy ripoff horror movie is actually pretty good too, even though it's very light eating. Sadly, I did give money for that, and you know, I will flagellate myself. But no, I enjoyed it. I had pizza and soda and everything. It was great. Yeah. Well, thank you guys for joining us. Thank you to all of our viewers. Thank you to our subscribers. And be sure to come in next week where we're really gonna raise the dead.